Welcome to episode 240 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jase. I'm here with Nick and Marty. And Marty, just quickly, 10 more eps, raising the bat for 250. What are you excited?
It sort of snuck
big
up.
Big party? It has snuck up.
It sort of snuck up because I know you were getting excited at 206. And now all of a sudden I've forgotten about it for a while. And we're just, it's rolling along, isn't it? I thought we'd maybe do 50 or so, but yeah, up to 250. That's a pretty good achievement.
Yeah, it's the show. The show goes on, mate. The numbers are fantastic. We're loving it, and we're joined for an ep from you, Marty. You're steering the way today. What have you got for us?
I just wanted to talk about the cost of confidence, and I just feel in talking to a lot of business owners and people in general, I feel like confidence and a lack thereof sometimes really costs people more than they realise. And in other ways, you always see that confident person, you're going, I don't know whether they should be that confident, but they, given what they're doing, but they get results because they have more front than Myers and they get the job done. And and I just wanted to open it up to you guys in regards to a lot of, I think, things that happen to us in our youth, a lot of adults carry on with. And sometimes it's unrecognizable to them and it impacts them in some ways. And I think sometimes if you want to change the way to achieve something, you have to change the way within yourself as a first foundational principle. But I was going to throw it open to yourselves. Is there any sort of belief that you carry from youth that's either a hindrance or a positive? I don't mind which one, but it'll demonstrate my point. Jase, anything that you remember from youth that you've carried on that you'd love to address, or something that you know works for you that you picked up?
Oh, it depends how personal and emotional we're going to get. But I would say the first thing that comes to mind of, something from youth that has stayed with me was I was pretty overweight. I was a chubby kid. I was teased for being overweight. So that's something that has stayed with me. That is always something on the back of my mind. That am I the chubby accountant that I'm not confident. I beat myself up over it. It can control some conversations with Case where I'm feeling a bit, not good about myself in a certain way. And then really, for anyone like you guys know me, I'm a confident guy. Like I'm shoulders back, chin up. I'm got a bit of, as you said, that person who is confident. Maybe they, the thought process is maybe I shouldn't be. I'd say that's one that stuck with me for a very long time that I'm always focused on is that, I'm conscious about that, and that stuck with me from a childhood point of view.
And you've kind of turned that into a kind of superpower in running marathons and everything. So again, even though
relationship.
Now it well could be, but there's certainly you've built resources around that as well. But it's interesting how that thought still provokes an emotion within you, right? And it's like, and sometimes we just need to be able to let that go, and we might do the behaviors to transcend it, but sometimes that emotion still dictates how we feel about ourselves. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more as we go. Might come back to that, Jase, later.
Yeah, I was thinking that might happen.
Nick, is there anything that you take out of your youth that is either a positive or that you carry through, or
There's two, and the only reason I'm going to say two is because, like Jase, I was chubby from probably most of high school. Well, for the first good part of high school, and I reckon that's instilled in me just this obsession with never being chubby again, and that creates the habits that I've got today, which is try and train or do some kind of exercise all day, every day, and I try and eat right. So I reckon I'm just saying that because, Jase, I think that's what drives me to do what I do now because I've been there. But probably the first thing that comes to mind, Marty, is growing up in a family with not a lot of money. Like we weren't broke, but mum was single a single mum for a long time, so everything was earned. We never had the best of everything, of anything. Money was always a topic. Although we had everything we needed, money was always a topic. And I reckon what that has done to me is, like, I never have the best things. And it might, to a lot of people, that might sound strange because some people might say, oh, you drive a nice car and you've got a nice watch, but they're not the best. I'll always peg it back from what I think I probably could have. And I reckon that's from childhood and being a little bit cautious about not spending money, but how you're perceived. So, I'll always look to find a cheaper option in something, or a more economical way to do something. Clothes. I don't buy expensive clothes. And if I do, I buy them once every 5 years. So it's just little things like that I think come from a childhood of, money not being, readily available and always a topic. And even today, I still see it,
So having made more money, and I know, it's like this, you would have transcended what you were thinking back when you were young in that situation. What's your relationship with that now? Is it like, do you have a sense of comfort?
No. No,
Yeah.
mate, I'm not joking when I say I would think of money every hour of every day.
Yeah.
And I'm not even, it completely drives my thought patterns. And it's not a, shit, I need to make more money. Give me money, give me money. Every decision I make and every thought, nearly every second thought during the day is about money, good and bad. Yeah, and whether it's healthy or not, it's probably not healthy. I'm sure people have other things, but I'll think about the weirdest things, and I'll be worried about things 2 or 3 years down the track, and that's definitely all come from childhood and not having harder times as a kid, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for your honesty, both Nick and Jase, on that, because it's, again, we all have these things, and I see that in a lot of people. Like, I'm actually trained to work people through these things and their connection. And the thing is, like, even when you get a result that's a good result, it still comes with the same anxieties as that young 7-year-old, right? And it's the same as, you're healthy running marathons now, giving up a bit of drinking for 3 weeks, Jase. Very proud of you on that. But again, it still triggers those feelings about yourself. And now you've found ways through to make it work for you in some way, and it's just a matter of releasing the stress around your youth. But some people can't maneuver through it. Some people get trapped by that thought and continue to suffer and be traumatized with no action through it. And that's where the dangers really start to step in. And I can give you my own experience, a little very similar to Nick and Jason anyway, except I'm chubby now, but I still have confidence. but the thing is, like, one of my personal stories is my dad worked really hard for his money. Immigrant from the 1970s, always worked 2 jobs, $20 in his pocket. And we always had a roof over our head and we had food on the table. But it was always talked about that there was no money. It had to be a skinny Christmas, or we couldn't go on holidays. And as much as I'm grateful, because, Dad did as well as he could with what he knew too, right? And even in regards to his guidance to me, was very much trying to protect me rather than anything else. So I'm very grateful for everything he did. But I also know that I needed to transcend the story in some way if I was ever going to break out of that mindset as well for what I wanted for my life. Now, what do you think Dad, working 2 jobs, doing it tough, thought about wealthy people? Throw a couple at me. What do you reckon he'd think about it?
Scammers,
fraud.
Yeah.
Drugs.
Must be up to no good.
Yeah, must be up to no good. All you do, all I do is work, and
rich get richer and the poor work harder.
That's it. Yeah, all that's my story. That's my story. So for me, it was, that really is interesting, and I'll delve a little bit more into it, how I broke through it. Now, I also had positive beliefs, like my grandmother, great matriarch of the family. She always gave me the belief that everything will be okay. I can't tell you how that belief has helped me. Like, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the tragedy, it's like everything's going to be okay is in the back of my head. So a lot of these thoughts we have about ourselves aren't even our thoughts, right? They've been instilled. So when it was really interesting for me in the Yarra Valley at the time, I started to see families that were doing things differently. Like, I saw one of my friends, Ashley, his parents owned an apple orchard. They were running a business. They They seemed like they had conversations when there was any kind of conflict. They talked it through. In our family, the conversations just got louder, not so necessarily smarter, right? But that was what it was. And I could see these people were more connected into the community. They had nicer cars, but they weren't flaunting it. They just seemed well adjusted. So I was very fortunate to see a number of these different families so I could ask better questions for myself as to, what I wanted. And the What Works business course that I did when I was 18, where it actually mapped out your goals and mapped out your visions for your life and what you wanted to accomplish. And I thought, this is amazing. I could call this, and then I can build a model and a strategy to go and achieve it. I thought, this is incredible. This was like the world opening up to me as to what was possible. And then all of a sudden I started doing better. I got into the bank. I got more money than Dad. I did stand-up comedy nights. I started to transcend. I started to earn probably 5 times more than what Dad did. Now I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that for the premise and not to gloat, but to say this is what happened. Now, do you think I felt good about that in the end? No. I felt like I was ostracizing myself to my own father at that point because of the fact that I was now becoming the very thing he didn't like and was telling me these stories about people like this. And, he even said to me, people in big cars, what are they hiding? Big car, little man, right? And I love my dad, but this was the thing. This is the battle I went through in my late 20s. And I started to self-sabotage myself to try and get myself. It's like the thermometer when you put it on 18 degrees and all of a sudden it's 30 and it just comes back to 18. It comes back to the belief. And I had to transcend it. I knew that I was actually sabotaging myself and my opportunities. But, and in the beginning, I didn't know why. And then I did a lot of study around, beliefs and patterns of behavior. And it was fascinating to go, oh, I have to let this go. And it didn't, it didn't mean I didn't love Dad. I love Dad dearly, and I'm very grateful. And he's done the best he can with what he knows, which is tremendous. But for me, I have a different life and I have a different opportunity. And to honor what he had created for me, to me, it's to expand and explore the possibilities of what that is for me. And I had to let those thoughts around that go. But boy, oh boy, as I even talk about it now, like the challenge to get through it. And I'm fortunate that I had mentors in my life that that said, this is your life and you're running off an old behavior that really doesn't serve you and an old belief that really doesn't serve you anymore. And you need to create some new beliefs about your own legacy of what you want for your life. And it was a game changer. And I talk to business owners every day. And it doesn't matter how successful people are in business. Sometimes these personal challenges come up that stop them in many different ways. Like I've seen many people with the Lamborghinis in the driveway, but no one in the house, because they've been chasing something they thought they wanted, but have lost everything they really wanted. So just people connecting back and aligning to what's important for them is really, really critical to live the life that you want, and then to expand off that foundation as opposed to the foundations of the past that keep gripping you. Resonating at all, guys? I mean, I've been waffling on there a bit, but
Definitely. 100%. I think, there's so many books out there that I can think of that talk about, this in different ways, shapes or form. One of them is Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. Talks about that confidence, that idea of, if you walk into a room and you've got your shoulders back and your head up high, and how you portray confidence, how you'll be treated in life, how people will talk to you, how people will want to do business with you. Versus if you walk in the room and feel small and look small and your shoulders are slumped and you're, crouching down and you speak quietly, again, how someone will want to work with you, how they might not purchase off you, what they will do with that, and then thinking about that from a child all the way up to an adult. If there's 2 different people that walk into a room, the person with shoulders slumped that speaks small and keeps down and keeps quiet versus person with some confidence, shoulders back, and a bit of energy and spunk about them, who is going to get further in life just off that premise and that idea of that particular one rule. I mean, yeah, it goes deeper than that. The inner child, the book I'm reading at the moment is called The Alcohol Experiment, just reframes again the ideas of the things you learn as a child are inbuilt and ingrained into your neural pathways of decision making. So everything you've talked about, Marty, sit here listening to the story again, thinking about, both Nick and your story about the, money growing up as well. Could probably have a similar thing. Dad worked 2 jobs, would work his guts out to put food on the table. And, so that's something that I remember that created or framed my relationship with work was that, well, every waking hour of the day, if I could be working to make money for my family or for my life, I should work more. But did that create an unhealthy relationship for me in my early career and days? Correct. Yeah. So
absolutely. I had to suffer for money. That was the thing was I needed to suffer for money. Money couldn't come with ease, but for some it can. And there's a difference in making money to survive out of that mindset as opposed to abundance of going how to create wealth that takes you out of that environment. They're two totally different mindsets. And when you see entrepreneurs that crack the code, they've transitioned from that survival mindset into real abundance mindset. And you can distinctly hear it when you talk to them, and you can see it. Sometimes I go between the two still, but it's a work in progress. But and the alcohol one's interesting too, because I was feeling crook with alcohol when I was drinking. Now, my family, loved drinking. They loved it. And it wasn't the expensive stuff. It was just to change the state and, have a good time. So I've never really had the appreciation of great wines because I've never been in those environments. But the thing was, even though it was making me crook, I was still drinking. And I go, because of this identity alignment with that, and I go, so the person I wanted to become was different to that. And now my identity is someone that doesn't drink. And I've made that choice for myself. And like you said, you had 3 weeks off. For me, I've had 13 years. And it's been a real positive in my life. Now, I'm not saying that's right for everyone because, again, everyone has the right to have a drink and enjoy enjoy what they do, and that's for them to decide. But for me, that was my decision. And I had to stick by it, even though, it sort of was interesting in social circles, right? There was some sort of you get ostracized and stuff like that initially, but you got to be strong enough to go, to live your beliefs and what you want to do for your life as well.
So Marty, this has been obviously pretty I guess we're talking about personal stuff here. So as a business coach, like one of the things that I saw you do in this business was create a new identity amongst certain salespeople. So, how do you push people from, 50 million settlements to 60 or 70? It's creating that identity that I'm a $70 million broker or what might, whatever number might be appropriate for each business. So is this the stuff as a business coach, you're also talking about the business's identity? And
correct. Yeah. Every individual, has, you can become the person's confidence until they get evidence that it's theirs. Even though it always was theirs, sometimes people can't tap into it on their own, just based on their own limitations. So if you can provide confidence and you can provide action plans, which they start to trend and implement, and they get results, even if it's a little result and you get movement, that builds confidence. Confidence comes through action. It's not about just being confident. It's doing the actions that build confidence, and that becomes a flywheel effect. So if they can do it from, 50 to 75 mil, there's a good chance they'll be able to do it from 75 to 100 mil. And all you need to do is, can they do it with what they already know? Do they need resources, underneath them or around them to get that? Because the strange thing is someone, and I'll keep it simple and in monetary terms because we are on numbers, but this can apply to any behavior. Someone doesn't earn 50,000 a year because they want to earn 50,000 a year. They just haven't built the confidence and know-how to earn 100,000 a year. Someone is earning that. It's the same with the business owner, the one that might be doing 500 grand a year. They haven't yet built the $4 million company, but someone has. And someone has a set of behaviors, a set of beliefs, a set of thoughts, a set of actions and models in order to achieve that. So it's very, very simple and easy to go to these types of people and start to learn these types of behaviors and transcend your own performance. But you got to believe that you deserve that performance. And that's the confidence. If you don't believe you deserve that performance, you'll break down that and stick within your spectrum of where you are and not transcend and not explore your possibilities. So for me, it's removing the weeds and just carefully placing these building blocks of people being able to identify what they're actually capable of. And once they get a whiff of it, and once they get a feeling of what that's like, it literally changes the game. It's delicate because, again, sometimes you're dealing with some interesting patterns that are underneath the system, and you also have to have enough rapport and you have to have acceptance from them to be able to delve in that. And you can do that in different ways. It doesn't have to be talking about the initial problem. It can be you can resolve it through the behavior you want to achieve and the result you want to achieve, which I love. Therapy wants to delve into, let's go back to when you're 6. Well, it just causes more trauma. We've done that a little bit today. But what I'd rather do is go, what's the result that you want? Where are you at? What's causing the concern? And what's hindering you moving forward on that result, adjusting it in real time in order to move through to get the result. So it's not the size of the result. It's like the movement through is really where the opportunity lies for people.
Yeah, good therapy session, and it's just kind of drawing out, things that I remember were big turning points in my life. And one of them was the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that was all around rewiring your beliefs. So again, you touched on if you've only ever been able to earn 50,000 or your salary's always been 70,000, but if you've never thought that you believe that you could earn 140 or 200, you've never had the desire to put the steps in place to rewire the beliefs, to have the purpose, and then put that into place of, okay, what are the steps I take to become that person or to change my belief, to drive the action that's required. And usually then, comes into what we might discuss now is around, the different fears. What is the fear that is holding them back?
Yeah, generally it comes down to the one belief I see a lot of business owners, even though they're striving to be successful and drinking themselves into oblivion sometimes, and that's an extreme, but we all need outlets, don't we? But I'm not good enough, or who am I kidding? And you can generally see, if I said to you even to me, what's the income level where you start to feel very uncomfortable? Isn't that strange? Like you go, it might be, is it 250? Is it 300? Is it 400? Is it 500? You know what I mean? You can take that to anyone in their wage so you still got to find that point where it's realistic as well in order to trend them. Otherwise you blow it out into delusion and they can't entertain it, and they'll just destruct the whole, the opportunity.
You've just made me think of something. Obviously, I bring golf up a lot because I enjoy the game and I'm trying to get better. But there's no secret that golf is very mental. So I listened to an episode the other day on a golf podcast talking about the mental side, and identity is such a big thing with golf. So, if you're a 18 handicap or a 6 handicap, 6 being a lot better than an 18, you identify as an 18 handicap. And the challenge that most golfers have when they're trying to get down is they don't think they're a 6 handicapper, and they feel very uncomfortable when they're scoring well. So one of the biggest problems is, there's 18 holes on a golf course. Let's say you're 12 holes in and you're scoring really, really well in line with a 6 handicapper. The level of you get very uncomfortable, and what happens a lot is people then have a shitty six holes to get them back to where they are. So there's actually games you can play by yourself, like talking about training and stuff, that try and there's a game called 2 balls best ball. So what they say is if you're on a golf course, you hit 2 balls and you play your best one. And you hit 2 balls again and you play your best one. And what it does is it gets you comfortable with, if it's a par 4 and you've got there in 4, but you've actually had 2 balls going the whole time, it gets you comfortable that you're a par golfer.
There you go.
And it's
Perfect example.
Yeah, it's exactly the same stuff. You've got to get used to and being comfortable with shooting a low score, you know.
Perfect example. Exactly what I'm talking about. And even in regards to another little method you could do is if you're watching one of your favorite golfers swing, or even if you can watch them live, it's even better. Watch their swing, start to just duplicate the behaviors, the actions, just start to, and then just for a moment, picture your face on their head, you know, if you get that chance. And actually for the same reasons, Nick, it's basically we micro, everything's sort of micro, and that you feel that in the physicality, you feel that in regards to the attitudes when you're in that moment. Very, very powerful exercise, and it takes you out of yourself for a moment. And that's sort of that transcendence. But what Jase was saying, the things I see that come up is the fear of failure. That's the old chestnut, you know, salespeople. You know, they're scared to approach clients or referral sources, try new ideas because they fear rejection or failure. Yeah, that's a big one. So what's the opportunity that's lost by just not doing that behavior? And for me, I certainly had that. Stand-up comedy resolved that for me because I knew 51% of the room might like you, 49% of the room might hate you. And the most important thing is that you're on that stage delivering what you want to deliver. Even if you had a smaller component to that of 20% that liked you, you've got a market, right? You've got a following. So again, present yourself, learn, put yourself out there. Now, I'm not saying go and do stand-up. You don't have to go to that extreme like I did, but I did that to blow myself out of my comfort zones because otherwise I knew the path that it was going to be for me. So to me, that was an amazing experience and gave me confidence around anything that I chose to do in the future because that was quite a significant moment in my life. And people have to decide what that is for them. Fear of other people's opinions. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. What matters is your own opinion of yourself and the people, you know, that you love ultimately, but most importantly, the one of yourself, because at the end of the day, you have the right to explore the possibilities for you and test yourself how you want to test yourself. You know I'm adventurous, I'm curious, I like to get results, I'm a deal maker, and I like to see people win, you know, but I don't want to second guess what's possible too. You know what I mean? Because I'm holding back. I want to see what that is, you know, and that everyone deserves that right as well. Fear of other people's opinions, Jase. We've all been there.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, look, and it's real every day. I mean, sometimes I don't accept, you know, we've got videos for the numbers game and it pops up that I can add that to my personal feed. And I go, oh, like, you know, I've got a lot of friends and family that maybe they don't see or understand what I do here is, you know, important and trying to help people have better lives. And maybe I get a bit embarrassed, shy, you know, not sure it should be on my personal platform. And sometimes I don't accept the video and it just sits there and I stare at it and go, that's a weird thing to not accept that, but that's fear of people's opinions, people I used to work with, people, you know, that have come and gone from my life and just go, they're still able to see my feed and there's people that follow me that I may not be in contact with. Yeah, it's a weird thought to think that, you know, someone who is confident, I've got confidence, I can stand on stage and do presentations, but there's just weird little moments in life where there is this fear of failure or fear of people's opinions. But yeah, definitely still real and relevant to this day.
And you know me, Jase, I will put that video up of myself because I know it gets a result. At the end of the day, it achieves something that I want to achieve. And I don't mind what the 49% that don't like me think because I'm looking for the 10% that do or the 20% that do that creates a market. And then you join dots. Every dot you join is a possibility for
accept
improvement.
The video. All right, done. It's accepted.
There you go. Accept. It's really powerful. And Nick spoke about the other one just then. I had this too. Certainly the fear of survival. You know, it's like if that's still a trait, it's you know, fearful money. Sometimes it's very hard to make money off fearful money because you do become very defensive. And it's not to say go the total other way and be really loose. It's about just having that balance. And I think in time with experience, and you would be definitely this, Nick. Now it's it's much more balanced, and you're making better decisions based on data that you're bringing in, and that's what gives confidence to business owners. Sometimes to get them out of their own emotions, it's like, how do you bring them back to a metric or a model that they can have confidence in to progress in? And data's very good for that. You did that. What result did you get? What did you find? What could you do better next time? What worked really well that you could leverage? So as long as you're presenting models and you're doing actions within models, then sometimes that's the confidence that they might not have in themselves initially, in order to build confidence and then redefine themselves through it. So so I hope that that gives some scope to people. Now,
Awesome.
Now, how are we going for time, boys? I was going to run Jase through a little thing, but I don't want to. We've been going for a little while. Have we got another 5 minutes?
Got 5, yeah.
Let's do it.
5? Let's
do
it.
it. If you've planned it, Marty, let's do it. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but
all right, Jase. So I'm going to put it on you because I think you're going to get a lot out of it.
Okay.
All right. What's a limiting belief that you feel like you do carry? Like, what's like legitimately where you go, geez, if I could just be this or do this, it'd make a difference.
All right, let's keep it relatively tame.
You can do business.
I've ran 5 marathons in 12 months, and a limiting belief is that running a 4-hour, 3:45 to 4-hour marathon is me. It's 5 minute 15 Ks. It's what I do. I half-ass I do my training, carry a little bit of weight because I'm the chubby accountant. That's the belief that I've still got, and that's me. So that's the limiting belief.
So where has this limiting belief come from?
It's just that, I've never necessarily thought of myself as a runner. I've never, been super sporty, played sport younger, but again, got into this running thing later on in life. I enjoy the gym, enjoy working out, enjoy staying fit, enjoy looking at metrics of a Whoop, of resting heart rate and whatnot. But again, I've never seen myself as being like an athlete, ripped, 6-pack, fit, able to run a certain speed. So I've always just kind of thought, I'm an everyday average punter.
So what do you think that limitation is costing you?
Well, look, realistically, and again, this pains me to review and self-reflect on, but yeah, we're in it, we're doing it. I look at the opportunity to have had better results across, London, Chicago, Tokyo, Gold Coast, Ballarat. If I'd not had the limiting belief, did the training a little bit more than, put in more effort to the training to target a faster pace per kilometer. Deep down it's there, it's in there. I'm a capable guy. It would just be changing the belief and actually targeting a 3:30 marathon. So running 4:45 or 4:55 per kilometer. I look at Greg's journey. He lost 20 kilos and he's going for a sub 3-hour marathon. I've convinced myself that I'm not that guy and I can't do that.
So if you're carrying, let's say you carry that limitation with you across the rest of your life. Now, this limitation is not only in regards to running, right? This spreads. This is a process that's working in your brain, right? So that we're neutralizing here. What do you think the cost of that limitation is? If you were to map out, to your 80 years of age, what do you think that ultimate cost is of carrying this?
Yeah, look, it's really, I can see it now. It's trophies. That thing. Well, it's, a lot of trophies. Now it's, when they talk about, when you're on your deathbed, you don't want to think back of what could have been, what I could have done. Geez, I wish I'd done that. So if I always moving forward, limit myself to be a certain speed, a certain weight, a certain fitness, I will get to a point of my time where the opportunity to have a crack because of health, body, whatever else, I'm at a point in my life where I can be the fittest, healthiest, and youngest I can be as of today. But every day I get older and things happen as you get older that, again, not to limit that you can't be 50 or 60 and run a faster marathon. But yeah, I'd hate to get to 80 or 90 and go, geez, I wish I'd had a crack one day. So that limiting belief could cost me the consequence of not knowing, the unknown, and that fear of missing out.
So what would be a more supportive belief for you to carry from this day forward?
The confidence and belief that if I want it bad enough and put in the training, I can achieve better results than what I've limited myself to. I've probably set those limitations due to fear of failure, because if I say I want to run a 3:30 marathon and I don't get it there, I've put it out to the universe that I actually want to be a faster runner. But by not putting it out there and not talking about it, not doing it, I don't have that fear of failure or fear of people's opinions as well.
I'll say it again. What's the belief from this day forward that you're going to take on?
That I can beat Greg. I can run faster than him one day. No, I can run faster. I can train. I can get my body right. I can do the right things that support being healthier, fitter, faster. And if I'm going to keep running marathons, I might as well be good at it.
What's the first step to do that?
Well, with Achilles tendonitis, I've got some work to do. But no, so the first step to do that is to review my goals, review my behaviors, review the patterns that I have in place around, is running twice a week going to be enough to get there? No. So it'll be putting a plan in place that, whatever the longer term goal is, set something realistic. It doesn't have to be next month or the month after, but I know that I want to run the Berlin and New York marathons in the next 2 years. So it might be targeting a longer term goal to say, build fitness, build strength, build the right habits and routines around food and diet and running, and, set the belief that I can run a sub 3:30 marathon and go for it.
And you're very honest in your response, and I'll just finish up, but you immediately went to the Achilles, right? Yes. Immediately jumped to the Achilles to sabotage that opportunity. So again, that might be the first step into go, when I want to accomplish something, I'm not allowing that to creep in. I'm gonna set the first parameter that I'm going to do from that new foundation. Just something to have a look at. What would you need to experience for that change, that belief to become true, that new belief to become true, that you're a person that can maximize your potential in anything you want to set yourself to? What would you need to see for that evidence for that to now be a truth for you? And do you need to let go of anything?
Oh, yeah, I think letting go of that limiting belief and, if I am going to do it, look, I think having a coach would help too. I know that any runner who's got great results in reducing their time from 4 hours to 3:30 or, Greg from 3:30 to sub 3, it's working with a coach to go over these things. So for me, if I'm going to take it seriously, an experience or change for me would be to work with someone who can hold me accountable, keep me working towards those goals and instill the belief that it is possible and I can do it.
Fantastic, Jase. And that's the thing. You're important enough to do that. And that's the thing, that belief. And we all have that. We all feel that, at some level not good enough, and we, jeopardize our opportunities. So it's just coming back to, you've explained it honestly, and it was a really great way that you went through it. But again, to create that new foundation, and of course the belief's got to be important for you as well. But to me, it's not so much about the running, it's the belief of you just exponentially exploring your capabilities in anything you set your mind to. And you're that person that does great things anyway and is pushing through that type of hindrance. But imagine we alleviate that and allow you to achieve what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it, because that's the person you are. So anyway, that's just a little something, and now you can create a plan of attack, which is a coach for your running or whatever you choose that to be and where to back yourself. And well done.
Well, thank you, Marty. Well. This has been one of the best counselling and psychology sessions I've been through. It's nice to know there's others out there that might have been chubby when they were younger, Nick, or had the money things with dads working hard and put meals on the table. If you'd like a set of those questions that Marty just put me through because you want to go through it yourself and you don't necessarily want to rewind and recapture, reach out to Marty. You can find Marty V on LinkedIn. You can find all of us there. Love you to connect with us. We do love getting messages from our listeners. When you have questions, when you have concerns, you want to unpack something like this with Marty, reach out, get in touch. The team at Innovate are very supportive of this podcast, same as Future Advisory. We are here to support our listeners to help them have a better future and understand their numbers. Until next time.
If you want to change the game, you got to start by changing yourself in a good way. Game over.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.